which, by the way, just as an offside, and again, I'm not leaning on my heritage, but apparently, according to my parents, my family does come from the same clan as Sir William Wallace. Since we
Way
brought
to
it up,
bring that up. Way to bring that in. Look, I didn't
I'm
want
not
to bring
saying I'm
it
a
up
descendant.
or
I'm
anything.
not saying I'm a descendant of the great freedom fighter Sir William Wallace. I'm saying that same clan. There is about 3 generations in. I've got like a great grandmother whose last name was Wallace.
For that level of reference, I actually have a bit of a connection to an American war hero, Colonel
Before we get into
David.
that, actually, I do have another bit of interesting trivia. That same family, because that's the thing is like my mother's side of the family is basically one big European mutt.
Mhm.
Um, which is probably another reason why I'm like fuck heritage because I have all of them. But
Which
the
basically
interesting
makes
thing,
you Irish.
right? But apparently also I am also technically a member of the McCoy clan as well, of the Hatfields and McCoys, which is I only find amusing because I lived in Portland with like half the buildings are named after Hatfields. So
Okay, I'll give you that one.
I always found that amusing to be a guy born and raised living in the city of Hatfields when I myself am apparently a McCoy. That kind of maybe colored my life a little bit, you know.
Maybe I could see.
Yeah.
I could see that. Uh, my great uncle was Colonel David H. Hackworth, the most highly decorated officer in the history of all 4 branches of the U.S. military, dating all the way back to the Civil War,
Ooh.
until a Marine beat him a few years ago. But he was so highly decorated that his tombstone, the amount of awards, actually go into the grass.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
he was multiple Purple Hearts. When I read his book about Face, there is a moment in there where he's in the Vietnam War, and a lot of soldiers at that time would wear their helmets backwards because it was more comfortable in the way that it fit. Well, he got shot in the head, and it went in one side, ricocheted around, and popped out the other. And what also, but what that is just crazy. But what I really like about him, and this is how I know that I am a Hackworth in much more than just name. He'd been in a fight for a couple days, and he took his seat ration and he ripped the top off, and he had just scraped the grease from the top, and he was about to start eating. Somebody shot the meal out of his hand. So at that moment, he was so fucking pissed off.
That's not war. That's just a dick move.
So at that moment, he went behind enemy lines and he went up and he took out that sniper by himself because he took out his fucking food.
They say all's fair in love and war. That that is not. That is I don't care. That is not. Shooting the meal out of a dude's hand, that is a war crime. I'm sorry. Not cool. Not cool at all, bro.
I read that and I kind of sat back and I went,
We all get it. We all get it.
family,
Yeah.
I got
Yeah.
you, I got you, I got you. He died like the year before I joined the military, and I had people ask me if I was related to him, but I didn't have that answer. But after I got out of the military, my aunt told me that I am related to him. So I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
That is like the one person throughout all of history that I'm related to. That's I think that I'm aware of that is any kind of interesting.
Okay.
But he is interesting.
Yeah. Totally, yeah.
Yeah, I haven't read About Face in over 20 years. That wouldn't be a bad book to go pick up again.
I'd say the most interesting, let me think if there's any like there was one. It wasn't like a historical figure. There was a historical event that my family was involved in uh
And what's that?
during Well, I mean, I don't know if it really counts. So apparently, once upon a time, my family were Mormons, and when the one of yeah, bear with me here. Just bear with me here.
I just the sheer enjoyment that I get out of imagining you as a Mormon is fucking crazy.
Well, this story ends in bloodshed, so get ready. There's a
Oh,
reason. There's
so
a
it makes
reason why
sense.
we're yeah. There's a reason why we're not Mormons. And not only are we not Mormons anymore, but my family, no member of my family ever passes up an opportunity to talk shit about Mormons. Okay, so there is, you know,
There's a story here. All right.
yeah. So this was back in the Wild West days, settler days. Um, I'm trying to remember all the details here. I remember I learned about it because there was a magazine article written about it in like 1901, and my mother had tracked down that magazine and got a copy of it. And while we were road tripping across country once, she made me read the article from this 1901 magazine out loud to her as we were driving. And that's the only reason I know this story. And I was like maybe, I want to say like 10 years old at the time, 9 or 10 years old at the time. So it's a little bit of a fuzzy memory.
Hmm.
I, I bet my mom still has the magazine. I could probably get her to pull it out for me. But So apparently, while there was a big movement, there was a bunch of Mormons that were getting together to make a big push west. I think Salt Lake City was already established at this point. I think that might have been where they were going. I'm not 100% sure on that, but it was a giant caravan of Mormons all pushing west to join the bigger Mormon colony out west. And it was not an easy journey. It was kind of a rough journey. Things got a little heated, and
Well, how?
there was a break off. Basically, what happened? There was one high member of the group who started to get into very heated disagreements with another high member of the group, and eventually it led to an actual faction break off. This caravan of Mormons literally split in two, one continuing on to join up with the rest of the Mormons, the other essentially going their own direction to essentially start a whole new religion where this new guy was essentially Jesus now. That's what it came down to, is that this guy became this guy was claiming to literally like be hearing voices from God and telling him that we couldn't go further west, we had to settle over here. And so this faction breakoff was between the people who were following the original plan and the people who were following this guy who was now claiming to be the new prophet to go settle somewhere else.
Right.
My family was in the group that broke off to go join the new cult. My family were cult hoppers, apparently. We were just going from one cult to another, whichever was the newest, shiniest one. So, but what
Okay.
happened was, is while we're camped out essentially in the desert, trying to figure out what to do, and we're running out of food, running out of water, not really sure what to have happen. The dude who we've been following is basically been in his tent, quote unquote, meditating, waiting for a message from God this whole time. Things are getting a little tense. As we're all waiting for that to happen, the fucking cavalry show up because apparently the local cavalry in that area was run by a devout Mormon. And when the caravan of Mormons showed up with only half the people as expected, they told them what was up. And so the cavalry shows up to basically tell all the breakaways, get your asses back home. This isn't cool. And we refused. And so they opened fire with
Sounds
cannons.
like the cavalry.
Yeah. Um, as the
Very
story goes,
very very religious, very
yes.
pious.
Oh,
Either
yes.
you believe what we believe, or you
Turn the other
die.
cheek. Yeah. Turn the other cheek and love thy neighbor, all that. Yep.
Yep.
As the story goes, apparently, as the story goes, my great, I think that's all of them, great grandmother, at the time she was 15 years old while this is going on, and she is in the tent with the meditating leader when the very first shot from the cavalry, which was unexpected by anyone. We thought we had time to think about it and negotiate, but they basically decided they were done waiting and they just opened fire. Apparently, that first shot came through the tent and hit my great 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 grandmother square in the face. She did not die. I have seen photographs of this woman. She has no chin. If you know what a human being with no chin looks like,
Yeah, most people my age have seen the cowboy that had mouth cancer from chewing tobacco video.
yep.
Like we
And
all saw that in high school. Yeah.
I had a great 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 grandmother who had that same thing because when she was 15 years old, she took a cavalry cannonball to the face and lived. And that was like the general, you know, most everyone slaughtered and killed. Some people dragged back to the Mormon church, others scattered to the wind. My great 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 grandmother was one of the ones scattered to the wind.
Yeah,
And
pretty much the only thing I have against
yeah,
Mormons is that they used to like three different Mormon families at different points in my life would like invite me over for dinner and then just kind of like I don't want to say they mock how I thought, but it was like I was an alien that they were having over for like anthropological studying.
right, yes.
I felt like I was under a microscope in a very very weird way.
Well, I remember my mother telling me about how
And
she
that's three
literally.
different and that's three different things. That's three different
Oh
events.
yeah,
Like
I
it wasn't the
remember.
same family. It was weird. Like that's like the only thing I have with Mormons though is every time I'm around them I feel like I'm under a microscope. I feel like I'm an anthropological study.
Yep, no, that makes sense. Oh, I remember my mother telling me about how for her rebellious phase, she decided to make friends with a Mormon. Like that, like that's
Hell
literally.
of a rebellion.
Yeah, it's literally how deep the family's resentment
Oh, well, sure.
goes.
Yeah. Okay.
That
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
for her, for some, we're talking about a farm girl in the '60s. While most of her friends were rebelling by dating black men, she was rebelling by making friends with a Mormon. So, um, but yeah, I know it. I've tried to explain my family and I can't.
Rebel light.
Yeah. Um, but she did tell me about how she tried to do that. She tried to like show that it can be done, that old wounds can heal and so on and so forth, and she made an effort to be friends, and it worked. This Mormon friend of hers, they really hit it off great. They were close friends, and then out of nowhere the friend says to her, I really, it's really great, you are a good person. I appreciate what a good person you are, and it really just is a shame you're not getting into heaven.